Something is happening to young working men, and it is bigger than bad habits, bad attitude, or one rough job market. A lot of them are working but still falling behind. Some are not working at all. Many are quiet about it because admitting you feel lost feels like failure. The story usually gets told in cruel little slogans. They are lazy. They are soft. They spend too much. They do not want to grow up, but that misses the harder truth. The economy changed the deal, then blame the people who noticed the deal was broken. By the end, the picture will be clearer. This is not a video about feeling sorry for anyone. It is about wages, work, status, housing, prices, grocery aisles, apps, credentials, and the strange way official numbers can look calm while real life feels expensive and unstable. For a long time, the path for a young man was simple enough to understand. Finish school, get work, build skill, rent a place, buy a used car, maybe marry, maybe buy a home, then look back and say the grind was worth it. That path never worked for everyone. It was never perfectly fair. But it was visible. A young man could point at older men in his town and see a ladder. Factory floor, warehouse, construction crew, repair shop, public service, trucking route, small business. Today, the ladder still exists, but many of the lower rungs are cracked. Some rungs require college debt. Some require unpaid experience. Some require a car, tools, certifications, clean background checks, flexible hours, and a body that can survive years of strain. So when people ask why young men look discouraged, the question should not begin with their mood. It should begin with the offer. What exactly is being offered to a young man who wants dignity, independence, and a reason to believe tomorrow will be better than today? The official economy can sound fine. Unemployment can be low. Job openings can exist. Wages can be rising on paper. But none of that automatically means a young worker can afford rent, insurance, groceries, transportation, and a future at the same time. That gap between the dashboard and the driveway is where the frustration lives. Economists talk about averages. Young workers live in details. The paycheck clears, the bills hit, the grocery receipt feels rude, and the savings account barely moves. For young working men, work is not only income. It is identity. It is proof that you can carry your own weight. When work stops feeling like progress, it does more than strain a budget. It starts eating at confidence. That is why this issue feels so personal. A young man can handle hard work if hard work leads somewhere. What breaks people is not difficulty. It is difficulty without motion. The sense that no matter how much you push, the floor keeps sliding back. Part of this started with the slow decline of the old male job engine. Manufacturing did not vanish, but it became smaller, more automated, more regional, and less able to absorb millions of young men without degrees into stable middle-class careers. Warehouse and delivery work filled some of the space, but many jobs are faster, more monitored, and more replaceable. The worker is tracked by scanner, app, quota, rating, and schedule. He is useful but not always valued. Construction and skilled trades still offer real opportunity. They should not be dismissed, but they are not magic doors. Apprenticeships can be competitive. Work can be seasonal. Injuries matter. Transportation matters. Licensing rules matter. Local demand matters. Healthcare, education, and office services have grown, but many young men do not see themselves invited into those sectors. Some of that is culture. Some is training. Some is the quiet message boys absorb early about what jobs are supposed to be for them. So the economy keeps creating work, but not always work that connects to the old promise of male adulthood. A man can be employed and still feel economically invisible. He can have a schedule and still lack a path. The college route was supposed to solve this. Go to school, get the credential, enter the professional class. For some, it works very well. For others, it becomes a toll road with unclear signs and a bill that arrives whether the destination does or not. Young men have fallen behind women in college completion, and that matters because more employers use degrees as filters. The degree is not always proof of skill. Sometimes it is a sorting device. No paper, no interview, no chance. This is where resentment grows. A young man may be told the economy is full of opportunity, but every decent opening asks for experience he cannot get, credentials he cannot afford, or flexibility he does not have. Then there is housing. Nothing makes adulthood feel delayed like needing permission to be independent. When rent eats the first big bite of every paycheck, a room in a parent's house can be financially rational and emotionally humiliating at the same time. Living at home is not automatically failure. In many families, it is practical and loving. But when millions of adults feel forced into it by prices, it changes the emotional climate. Privacy becomes rare. Dating becomes harder. Risk-taking becomes harder. The old advice was to work hard and move out. The new reality is that moving out often requires a wage that entry-level work does not provide. So the young worker is told to be independent while the market charges him like he already is. That contradiction creates a quiet shame. Men are often raised to measure themselves by provision. If they cannot provide even for themselves, they may not talk about the math. They may just withdraw. Withdrawal can look like laziness from the outside. Inside, it can be exhaustion, embarrassment, or a calculation that trying again will only produce another rejection. People call it giving up, but sometimes it starts as self-protection. Now add dating and family formation. Economic uncertainty changes how people approach relationships. It is harder to feel ready for commitment when you cannot predict your schedule, rent, or health insurance. Romance becomes another area where money whispers in the background. A man who feels economically unstable may avoid dating because he expects rejection. A woman may hesitate because she wants stability. Both can be reasonable. The result is distance, loneliness, and a culture where everyone blames everyone else. The lost feeling is not only about money, it is about social place. Earlier generations could be broke but still feel needed. Today, many young men are surrounded by messages that they are either a problem to manage or a market to sell to. They are sold sports betting, energy drinks, delivery subscriptions, buy now pay later plans, gaming upgrades, crypto dreams, hustle courses, and status products. The economy may not offer them a ladder, but it offers them plenty of traps. That is one of the cruelest parts. A young man with weak economic footing is still treated as a consumer. His insecurity becomes a business opportunity. Every gap in confidence can be converted into a monthly payment. Look at the grocery store. It seems simple. Walk in, buy food, leave. But the modern grocery store is a pricing maze. The shopper is not just choosing items. He is moving through a system built to steer attention, urgency, and habit. Prices are not only prices. They are signals, anchors, comparisons, and sometimes distractions. The big, bright discount tag may not mean the best deal. The family size may not be cheaper per ounce. The premium label may be selling comfort more than quality. Packaging has become part of the game. A box can look familiar while holding less. A bottle can keep the same shape while the contents shrink. A bag can puff up with air and still sit in the same spot on the shelf. Shrinkflation is not imaginary, but it is also not always obvious. Most shoppers remember packages by color and shape, not by ounces. They notice the total bill first. They only notice the smaller package later, if they notice at all. That matters because young workers often shop fast. They are tired after work. They are comparing prices while thinking about rent, gas, text messages, and the next shift. Companies know people do not bring a calculator into every aisle. Unit pricing is supposed to help, but it can be messy. One tag compares by ounce, another by pound, another by count. Sale tags sometimes make the math feel easier than it is. The shopper sees a deal and moves on. Loyalty cards add another layer. They can save money, but they also create two prices for the same product. One price for the person who joins the system, another for the person who does not. The discount becomes a gate. Coupons used to feel like a small reward for careful shoppers. Now many discounts are digital, app-based, personalized, or limited. The shopper who does not scan, clip, log in, or share data may pay more for being less connected. That is not a conspiracy. It is strategy. Retailers want loyalty, data, and repeat behavior. The shopper wants groceries. The exchange may be legal and normal, but it still means the shelf price is not always the real price. Private labels change the aisle too. Store brands used to feel like the cheap backup. Now many are packaged to look clean, premium, and modern. Sometimes they are a good value. Sometimes they are priced just below national brands to feel like value. The trick is that value is relative. If the expensive cereal is placed next to a slightly cheaper store version, the store version feels responsible. But the real question is whether either one is a good price compared with simpler food. Store layouts also work on behavior. Basics may sit far apart. Milk, bread, eggs, produce, and meat can pull shoppers across the store. The longer the walk, the more chances for snacks, drinks, prepared foods, and impulse buys. Prepared food is where convenience becomes expensive fast. A young man working long hours may not want to cook from scratch. A hot bar, ready meal, chopped fruit cup, or sandwich feels reasonable in the moment. Over a month, it adds up. Delivery apps push that even further. The menu price, service fee, delivery fee, tip, small order fee, and higher in-app pricing can turn a normal meal into a quiet budget leak. It feels like dinner. It behaves like a subscription to exhaustion. Convenience is not a moral failure. Tired people buy time. The problem is that modern life makes people tired, then sells time back to them at a markup. That is not weakness. That is the business model. Grocery inflation has cooled from its worst spike, but cooled does not mean cheap. If prices jump and then rise more slowly, the pain remains. That is why official language can make people angry. Slower inflation is not the same as lower prices. A young man hears that inflation is improving, then walks into a store and pays more than he remembers. He is not crazy. He is reacting to the level of prices, not just the speed of change. This is the same mistake people make with wages. If wages rise after prices already jumped, the paycheck may still feel late. Catching up is not the same as getting ahead. A raise can disappear before it has a chance to feel like progress. And because men often measure themselves by forward motion, this creates a special kind of frustration. Working more but not moving up feels like running on a treadmill while someone increases the speed and congratulates you for staying on. Now think about transportation. Many young men need a car to access better work. The job is across town, the shift starts before buses run, or the work site changes. Without a car, opportunity shrinks. With a car, expenses multiply. Insurance, repairs, fuel, tires, registration, parking, and surprise breakdowns can crush the exact person who needs transportation most. One bad transmission can turn a working man into a man asking for rides. Public transit can help, but in much of America it is limited, slow, or unavailable. That means the labor market quietly assumes private transportation. The job listing may not say bring a car, but the schedule does. This is one reason the advice to just get any job can be shallow. Any job may not cover the cost of reaching it. Any job may conflict with training. Any job may trap someone in a schedule that blocks the next better job. Then comes health. Men are less likely to seek help, more likely to hide pain, and often told to tough it out. Physical jobs wear down backs, knees, shoulders, and sleep. Mental strain gets renamed attitude. When a young man is hurt, depressed, addicted, anxious, or simply exhausted, the economy does not pause. It asks whether he can show up on time. If he cannot, the label comes quickly. Unreliable. The disability story is complicated and should not be reduced to one cause. But it is clear that health problems can separate men from work, and being separated from work can make health problems worse. The loop feeds itself. Opioids, alcohol, isolation, and despair have hit many communities hard. Not every struggling man is caught in that storm, but enough are that it cannot be ignored. A labor problem can become a family problem, then a public health problem. Still, the culture often responds with mockery. Men are told to open up, then mocked when they sound bitter. They are told to seek help, then priced out of therapy. They are told to build community, then given schedules that change every week. This is why loneliness is not just a feeling, it is infrastructure. If work is unstable, housing is expensive, third places disappear, and most connection happens through screens, isolation becomes the default setting. For many young men, the internet becomes the place where they feel seen. That can be useful. It can also be dangerous. Algorithms are very good at finding pain and feeding its simple enemies. Some voices tell young men the whole system is rigged and nothing matters. Others tell them women are the enemy. Others sell discipline as a product. Others sell politics as therapy. The common ingredient is attention. The lost man becomes a valuable viewer, bettor, subscriber, recruit, customer, and follower. His loneliness has a market price. His anger has engagement value. His confusion can be monetized every night. But blaming the internet alone is too easy. The internet did not create the empty bank account, the high rent, the weak job ladder, or the grocery bill. It amplified the feelings those things produced. That is the uncomfortable truth. Young men are not only drifting because of screens. Many are drifting because the real world gives them fewer reasons to believe effort will be rewarded fairly. At the same time, personal responsibility still matters. Some men do make bad choices. Some avoid hard work. Some spend money poorly. Some fall into resentment because it is easier than growth. That has to be said, but responsibility without opportunity becomes a lecture. Opportunity without responsibility becomes fantasy. A serious conversation needs both. Young men need higher standards, but they also need a real path that makes those standards worth meeting. The economy is not a person, so saying it gave up on them is a metaphor. But incentives can abandon people. Institutions can stop building bridges. Employers can demand ready-made workers while refusing to train them. Training is the missing word in many debates. Companies say they cannot find skilled workers. Young workers say no one will give them experience. Both can be true. The bridge is paid training, but that requires patience and investment. Apprenticeships, community colleges, technical programs, and employer partnerships can work. They are not glamorous, but they are practical. They turn confusion into steps. They give a young man a reason to show up beyond survival. The problem is that many programs are hard to navigate. Forms, fees, waitlists, prerequisites, transportation, and schedule conflicts can stop the people who need help most. A path that only works for the already stable is not enough. Young men also need mentors, not influencers, mentors. People close enough to know their name, honest enough to challenge them, and practical enough to help them make moves in the real world. A mentor can do what a motivational video cannot. He can say, apply here, call this person, stop wasting money on that, show up clean, learn this tool, apologize, try again. That kind of guidance is boring and powerful. Workplaces used to provide more of that naturally. Older workers trained younger ones. Crews had hierarchy. Shops had informal discipline. As work became more fragmented, gig-like, remote, or high turnover, some of that social training disappeared. Now a young man can bounce between jobs without ever being shaped by a stable adult network. He learns tasks but not a trade. He earns checks but not confidence. He gets older but not necessarily more grounded. This affects politics too. A man who feels useless becomes easy to radicalize, but he also becomes easy to ignore. Society notices him when he becomes angry, not when he is quietly slipping away. That is a mistake. The best time to care about disconnected men is before the crisis. Before the addiction, before the arrest, before the eviction, before the angry worldview hardens into identity. None of this means young men have it worse than everyone else in every way. Women face their own pressures, including caregiving, safety, wage gaps, and impossible expectations. This story does not erase that, but it is possible to care about women's struggles and still admit that many young men are losing connection to work, family, school, and community. Compassion is not a limited resource unless we make it one. The economy needs men who are skilled, stable, and engaged. Families need them. Neighborhoods need them. Future children need them. Men themselves need a life that is more than consumption and distraction. So what changed at the checkout line is connected to what changed in the labor market. Both teach the same lesson. The modern economy rewards attention, data, credentials, scale, and leverage. The individual worker or shopper often has very little of those. A grocery chain can analyze thousands of prices. A delivery app can test fees. A landlord can compare market rents. An employer can filter resumes automatically. A young worker has a phone, a tired brain, and a paycheck that must stretch. That imbalance does not mean he is helpless. It means he needs to become more aware of the game, not paranoid. Aware. The person who sees the pricing tricks, career traps, and emotional hooks has a better chance of resisting them. Start with groceries. The cheapest basket is usually not built from the loudest discounts. It often comes from boring staples, unit price checking, fewer ready-made meals, fewer impulse drinks, and knowing which store-brand items are actually worth it. That sounds small, and it is. But small leaks matter when income is tight. A man who feels powerless can start by controlling the systems closest to him: food, subscriptions, transportation, sleep, and schedule. Then work. The question is not only what job can I get today, it is what skill makes next year less fragile. That skill might be electrical work, welding, coding, bookkeeping, equipment repair, health support, logistics, or sales. Not every skill needs a degree. Some need certificates, some need practice, some need a union hall, some need community college, some need a portfolio. The key is choosing something the market actually pays for. Young men also have to be careful with status spending. When life feels stuck, buying the symbol of progress can feel like progress. The shoes, the truck payment, the phone upgrade, the nightlife, the meal delivery. Again, this is not about shaming pleasure. People deserve enjoyment. But companies understand the emotional pull of status. They sell small hits of dignity to people who have been denied the bigger version. The bigger version is harder. It is skill, savings, health, discipline, friends, and work that compounds. It is not as flashy as a new purchase, but it is the only version that does not vanish after the payment clears. Policy matters too. Better training pipelines matter. Housing supply matters. Mental health access matters. Addiction treatment matters. Fair scheduling matters. Competition matters. But policy alone cannot rebuild meaning. Meaning comes from belonging and contribution. A young man needs to know where he is useful. That can be at work, in a family, in a church, on a team, in a volunteer group, or inside a circle of friends who expect more from him. The loss of belonging is one of the biggest hidden costs of this economy. When every institution becomes a transaction, people start feeling replaceable. A replaceable man eventually acts like nothing depends on him. But things do depend on him. That is the message young men need to hear without flattery. You matter, so your choices matter. You were dealt a harder hand in some ways, but you still have to play it. The hard part is avoiding two lies. The first lie says everything is your fault. The second lie says nothing is your fault. Both are comforting. Both are incomplete. The truth is heavier and more useful. The economy changed. Labor markets changed. Prices changed. Dating changed. Education changed. Technology changed. But a young man still needs agency. Agency is not pretending the game is fair. It is learning how to move anyway. That begins with naming reality clearly. A low unemployment rate does not mean every job is good. A raise does not mean life is affordable. A full grocery cart does not mean the shopper was careless. A man at home is not automatically lazy. Once reality is named, the shame loses some power. The young man can stop thinking he is uniquely broken and start asking better questions. What skills are scarce? What costs are draining me? What habits are numbing me? Who is actually helping? This is also where families have to adjust. Screaming old advice at a new economy does not work. Telling a son to just walk in and ask for a job may not match a world of online portals, resume filters, and credential screens. But families should not lower expectations either. Love is not letting a young man drift forever. Love is helping him build a plan, then holding him to it. Not with contempt, with seriousness. Employers have a role. If they want reliable workers, they should build them. That means clearer entry paths, better training, predictable schedules when possible, and wages that respect the cost of showing up. Schools have a role. Boys need earlier exposure to practical careers, not only abstract college messaging. They need to see respectable futures that involve tools, systems, service, technology, and responsibility. Communities have a role. Young men need places to go that are not only bars, apps, or bedrooms. Gyms, leagues, workshops, churches, makerspaces, volunteer crews, and local projects can turn isolation into connection. And young men have a role. They have to resist the industries that profit from their drift. Rage content, gambling, endless delivery, impulse spending, doom scrolling, and fake gurus can feel like relief while quietly stealing options. None of that is easy, but the alternative is worse. A generation of men who do not believe they are needed will eventually prove society right by disappearing from the places they are needed most. The phrase "working man" used to carry pride. It suggested competence, toughness, usefulness, maybe even honor. We should want that phrase to mean something again, not because men deserve special treatment, but because work should restore dignity. Dignity does not require luxury. It requires a believable connection between effort and life. If a man works full-time, learns, shows up, avoids obvious traps, and treats people decently, he should have a real shot at stability. Right now, too many young men do not believe that. Some are wrong. Some are right. Most are somewhere in between, trying to interpret a world that sends mixed signals every day. They are told the economy is strong, then rejected by employers. They are told prices are stabilizing, then shocked by groceries. They are told to move out, then priced out of rent. They are told to open up, then mocked for struggling. That mixed signal is the heart of the lost feeling. It is not only poverty, it is confusion. It is being told the map is accurate while every road looks blocked, tolled, or under construction. Young working men do not need pity. Pity can be insulting. They need truthful expectations and real roots. They need someone to say, yes, this is harder than it looks. And no, that does not excuse wasting your life. The economy may have stopped making room for them automatically. So the response has to be deliberate. Deliberate training. Deliberate community. Deliberate spending. Deliberate health. Deliberate standards. That word matters because drift is the enemy. A drifting man is easy to sell to, easy to distract, easy to anger, and easy to ignore. A deliberate man is harder to manipulate. This is where the story turns from complaint to challenge. If you are a young man watching your life stall, do not wait for the economy to feel fair before you move. Fairness may come late. Movement has to come sooner. Audit your money without lying to yourself. Look at food, delivery, subscriptions, car costs, debt, and impulse buys. Not because coffee is the reason you cannot buy a house, but because attention is power. Audit your time. How many hours go into work, training, sleep, exercise, friends, family, and screens? A man does not need a perfect routine, but he needs to know where his life is going. Audit your circle. Are the people around you building anything or only reacting? Do they challenge you or only confirm your anger? A bad circle can make a hard economy feel hopeless. Then, choose one skill path. Not 10. 1. Research it. Talk to people doing it. Find the lowest cost way in. Expect boredom. Expect rejection. Expect slow progress. Slow progress is still a rebellion against drift. For parents, teachers, and older men, the challenge is different. Do not just criticize young men from a distance. Offer standards with doors attached. Advice without access becomes noise. For policymakers, the challenge is to stop treating male disconnection as a culture war prop. It is a labor issue, a health issue, a housing issue, an education issue, and a community issue all at once. For companies, the challenge is to stop pretending every worker can arrive fully formed. If the economy wants skilled labor, it has to help create skilled labor. That used to be common sense. For shoppers, the challenge is to understand that the grocery aisle is not neutral. It is full of design. The deal, the package, the app, the loyalty price, the prepared meal, the premium shelf, all of it shapes behavior. And for viewers, the challenge is to stop laughing at the lost man until he becomes a crisis. The time to care is when he is still reachable, still working, still unsure, still quietly hoping someone can explain why life feels so heavy. The hopeful part is that lost does not mean finished. Lost means the old directions stopped working. It means a better map is needed. That map has to be honest about the economy and honest about responsibility. If we only blame young men, we miss the systems that changed around them. If we only blame systems, we rob young men of agency. The answer lives in the uncomfortable middle. The economy did not literally give up on young working men. But it did stop promising that ordinary effort would automatically produce ordinary stability. That is a huge change, and people feel it even when they cannot name it. You see it in delayed adulthood. You see it in loneliness. You see it in job hopping, online anger, debt, quiet shame, and the way small purchases become emotional escapes from bigger problems. You also see it in the checkout line. The receipt is not only food, it is evidence. Evidence that the math is tighter, the choices are more complex, and the shopper is expected to outsmart systems designed by teams of experts. So the next time someone says young men are simply lazy, ask a better question. What kind of work is available? What does it pay after rent, food, transport, and health costs? What path does it open? And when someone says the economy is great, ask for whom. A strong economy on paper can still feel weak to people without assets, credentials, stable housing, or bargaining power. The real measure is not whether a young man can survive this month. It is whether he can reasonably build next year. Survival is not enough to keep people invested. People need a future. That future will not come from nostalgia. The old factory town is not coming back exactly as it was. The old housing market is not coming back by wishing. The old male role is not coming back unchanged. But a new version can be built. Practical skills, real friendships, better training, more housing, less shame, higher standards, smarter spending, healthier routines, stronger communities. None of those fixes are dramatic alone. Together, they can turn lost men into needed men. And needed men are less angry, less isolated, more stable, and more capable of helping others. That is the point. This is not about excusing failure. It is about refusing to waste people. A society that lets millions of young men drift should not be surprised when the drift shows up everywhere else. One reason the problem is hard to see is that many young men are not dramatically unemployed. They are underplaced. They are doing work that uses their hours but not their potential. They are busy enough to be tired, but not positioned enough to advance. That kind of stagnation hides inside normal employment. Another reason is that asset ownership separates young adults sharply. A person whose family can help with a down payment, tuition, car repair, or unpaid internship lives in a different economy from someone who has to finance every mistake alone. The same wage can feel completely different, depending on the cushion behind it. Credit fills the gap, but credit changes the mood of life. A card balance, car loan, student loan, phone payment, and pay later plan can make a young man feel like tomorrow is already spent. Debt does not only charge interest, it steals confidence before the paycheck arrives. The language of hustle often makes this worse. It tells young men every spare hour should become money, every hobby should become content, every friendship should become networking, and every setback should become branding. That sounds empowering, but it can turn normal life into a permanent performance review. There is also a quiet class divide in advice. Stable people recommend patience because they can afford delay. Unstable people need decisions that work now. A bad job, bad lease, bad loan, or bad car can trap someone quickly, and escaping the trap often costs money he does not have. That is why financial literacy matters, but it cannot be used as a weapon. Yes, people should learn budgeting, interest, taxes, insurance, and basic investing. But knowledge does not make rent cheaper. It only helps a person stop bleeding more than necessary while he searches for better income. Young men also face a status crisis in a culture that measures adulthood with visible milestones: apartment, relationship, car, career, savings, vacations. When those milestones are delayed, the man may feel younger than his age, even if he is working hard. That mismatch can be humiliating. Shame is expensive because it pushes people toward escape. A man embarrassed by his situation may avoid opening bills, avoid asking for help, avoid applying for better work, or avoid conversations that could change his life. The longer he waits, the heavier the situation becomes. The grocery aisle shows the same psychology in miniature. A shopper who feels tired and behind may buy the product that promises comfort, speed, or control. Premium coffee, protein snacks, bottled drinks, frozen meals, and checkout candy are not random. They answer emotions as much as hunger. Even the word premium does a lot of work. It suggests that the buyer is not just purchasing food, but choosing a better version of himself. When people feel low status, a small premium purchase can feel like dignity. Retailers understand that feeling very well. Apps understand it too. They remove friction from spending and add friction to noticing. A tap does not feel like cash leaving. A stored card hides the pain. A subscription renews quietly. A delivery order feels separate from the grocery bill, even though both come from the same paycheck. Official inflation measures are useful, but they cannot capture every household's exact pain. A young man who rents, drives far to work, eats on the run, and has no family bulk buying advantage may experience the economy differently from the average household used in broad reports. That is why arguments about the economy often go nowhere. One person points to data, another points to a receipt. Both may be telling the truth. Data shows the landscape from above. Receipts show the pothole that just broke your tire. The goal is not to reject data. It is to connect data to lived reality. Federal labor numbers can show participation trends. Food price indexes can show changes over time. But the human story explains why those trends feel like anxiety, silence, anger, or giving up. When a young man says he feels lost, he may not be asking for someone to lower the bar. He may be asking where the bar is, who moved it, how much it costs to reach, and whether climbing toward it will finally lead to a life he can respect. The economy taught them to feel replaceable. The culture taught them to hide it. The market learned how to sell to the pain. Now the question is whether we can tell the truth before more men disappear into silence. Because this is not a side issue. It touches rent, dating, groceries, health, work, family, and the way people decide whether effort is still worth it. The young men who feel lost are not all the same, and they do not need one cartoon explanation. They need a country willing to look at the price of ordinary life, the design of ordinary jobs, and the loneliness hiding behind ordinary silence. They need fewer slogans and more roots back to competence, service, and pride. They need pressure, support, honest maps, not lectures from people who stopped checking receipts. If this video made you think differently about work, prices, or the young men around you, like it. Share it with someone who needs the conversation, and comment with this question: what is the biggest thing making young men feel lost right now?